Hi. I'm sorry we're late on that countdown time where I was reading some comments. And I'm like, the timer. What? I was distracted because someone said since the time that we were live at 10 to now, they made a masterclass blog.
Oh, that's great.
I think it was a Brenda or Barbara.
Yeah.
I can't find it again. But
Using
anyway.
your time wisely. I like it.
Yeah. And Judy, you're not in a meeting this time. Woo!
Whoever schedules meetings on Fridays is not a nice person.
Don't do that.
Hopefully,
Unless
Judy, you didn't schedule that meeting.
But this is a Hoop Sisters meeting, so
That's
thank
right.
you for attending.
That's right.
So welcome back in. This is the second and final live of our Hop into Spring event, and we've been having so much fun seeing all the comments. Nina is going crazy for the scavenger hunt pictures. She was in here telling us about that. So we hope that you guys are having a ton of fun in this event so far. If you're catching us live on YouTube, you can still watch this live. You can watch the mornings live, but the fun and all the posts in the event, the scavenger hunt is all inside the event. And we'll see if Nina can grab us a link and drop it. Nina's in the comments where she's usually hanging out during these lives. So we had her on here live this morning, and now she's in the comments to help you all today. And then we recruited Annie.
Yeah.
She volunteered the other day to do this. And I was like, perfect. And then I reminded her yesterday. She's like, oh my gosh.
I knew I said yes, but I'm like, what day was it? I did not put that in my calendar, but I'm here.
But you're here. And what are you going to be doing?
Well, the cute little bunny block that some of you have seen. I'm going to be stitching this cute little bunny block out. Isn't that cute?
It's so cute.
So
look
adorable.
At his little tail.
I know.
Did you say you're going to just use Battleizer?
I'm going to use Battleizer for his tail.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
So that's what we're here to do right now. Just a super quick recap. If you shop on the website in the Hop into Spring category, which we will drop the link for, almost everything is 10% off in that category. There is the exception of the My Journal cover sentiments, which we still have sets for, or the download option for. That is not included in the 10% off, but everything else in that category is. And anything you buy on the website today, the bunny block is going to pop in your cart automatically for nothing.
It's so cute.
Yeah. So
this look cute in an Easter basket.
It would.
Yeah.
Adorable.
Yeah.
All right. You weren't ready to get started?
I'm going to head over and let's do this.
You guys all ready? All right.
Okay. Here we are at the machine. So again, this is the cute little bunny block that we're going to stitch out today. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to try and go into some detail, but I don't want to bore anybody. So the first step you're going to do is you are going to hoop your Battleizer. And I have it in the hoop. And we recommend putting it in the smallest hoop possible. That's always a good thing to do. And the first step, it's going to stitch out a placement stitch, as you can see here. Now, I use pink thread, but your instructions tell you to use water-soluble thread. In the first few steps, you are going to be stitching in water-soluble thread, and that's basically, mainly, I'm just going to be honest, it's because I'm lazy, and I don't like to change the thread all the time. But there are some reasons. One of them, we use water-soluble thread because it's just, we don't need all that thread buildup in there. And another reason is on the edge of your blocks. It's important to have water-soluble thread on the edge of your blocks. So when you sew your blocks together, if that basting stitch is showing, you can just get it wet and it goes away. So this design has a spot for step 2 to use a layer of optional wool. And I am going to go ahead and do that today. But before I do that, I wanted to talk about how you need to prep that wool. So this is just a little teeny tiny piece of wool. I have it pressed on 3 edges. You can see how nice and thin that is on those edges. This is an edge that is not pressed. You can see how it poofs right out. So by pressing the edges, it just flattens it nice so that your presser foot does not get caught in that wool. Another thing you might want to do is if your machine has the capability of raising the height of your presser foot just a little, it's a good idea to do that too, and it helps the foot skim over the wool. So I'm going to go ahead and move my instructions here. I have my instructions because I've never stitched this out before. I'm just going for it. So our step 2 is that option where you can add a layer of wool. And the reason you have that option is because if you want a little bit more dimension in your quilt block, you can certainly get that by using the wool. I would say though, if you're going to use this as a coaster or mug rug, or maybe you're doing a table runner that you might put a vase of flowers or something on, then you might want to skip the wool so that it doesn't puff up so much and that maybe your drink might even tip over. So I'm going to use wool just so we can see the difference. So step 2 is also water soluble thread step. And again, I'm using pink so you can see it. And I basically have the wool on the inside of that placement stitch. And it's going to sew a zigzag to tack it down. So that'll give this cute little bunny block a lot of extra dimension. Our next step is it's going to stitch a placement stitch right on top of that wool. Now, if you don't want to use the wool, you would fast forward to the step we're doing now, which is step 3. So let's go ahead and sew that pattern right on top of our wool. And all I'm going to do is I have raised my presser foot a little. I think I'm going to raise my presser foot again. So bear with me for a second. Up a little bit more. Just enough so it's going to skim the wool. But you do still need to kind of beware in case it does get caught. And if it does catch, it's very, very easy to just cut that wool away and carry on. Okay, here's where I need my instructions. Okay, the instructions say to align fabric 1. So I have picked out 2 fabrics. Let me show you the fabric that I picked out. I have a pink and a blue. Cannot separate them, but I have a real pretty pink and a blue. And then for the bottom half of my block, I have this. So it's going to be kind of a wild, looks like a 60s flower power little block. So on this step, this is also a step that you would use water soluble thread on. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay down my fabric 1, and I'm going to just place it right over this area here. And the instructions are nice because it has kind of a diagram of where it stitches out so that you can kind of see where that placement stitch is going to sew. So again, I'm going to lay my fabric right over that, and I'm going to make sure I have about a ½ inch extended up at the top or the outside of the block, and about a ¼ inch past where the stitching is. And I'm going to move it even a little bit more. And with the water soluble thread, you're going to tack this piece of fabric down. Okay, then the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to trim any side of that what just stitched about a ¼ inch from the stitching. And I'm going to do it here. Anything on the outside of your block, we can just leave that there. So you're going to want to leave about a ½ inch on the outside of your block. Okay, so I have it trimmed so it's a little closer. Now I'm going to change, this is where you change your thread from water soluble thread to a neutral color thread that's going to blend in with your fabric. And you're going to take your fabric too, and you're going to lay it right side down with the raw edges even. And your screen on your machine will probably show you where to lay that. But also you can see the diagram on your instructions also shows you where the seam is. So the seam will be stitching on this side of our fabric 1. So our fabric 2 will be a seam right there. So I'll just lay this right side down with the raw edges even and make sure I'm at least a ½ inch up there at the top. And then I'm going to sew my seam using that neutral thread. Okay, now I'm going to flip this fabric right side up. And I'm going to have a little thread there I should clip. And then just finger press it with your fingers. Finger press that seam and lay that fabric nice and smooth. And now the machine is going to do a tack down stitch. And we are still using the same neutral colored thread. And now it's time to trim again. So we will trim a 1/4 inch on the inside your block and leave that at least a ½ inch on the outside of your block. So there we go. We're ready to go again. And then we're going to take our fabric 1. So that's my pink. We're going to lay that right side down. So it's just a stitch and flip until you get all these areas sewn. Still using the neutral thread. And then we're going to flip it right side up. And we're going to finger press it. And still using neutral thread, we're going to stitch a tack down to hold that fabric in place. Okay, and same trimming instructions. You're going to trim a 1/4 inch, anything on the inside of your block, and leave at least a ½ inch on the outside of your block. And then I need my fabric 2 again. And I will be placing this right side down, raw edges even, leaving about a ½ inch there at the top. And we're going to sew another seam. And now I'm going to actually read the instructions. Okay. Now we're going to flip it right side up. And you're still going to use the same thread, still your neutral thread. Finger press it, make sure it's nice and smooth, and it sews the tack down. Just filling up all our stripes there. Let me bring this out so you can see it. Got a little thread tail there. And I'm just going to cut this a 1/4 inch right there. All the other sides are on the outside of the block, so I'm just going to leave that fabric there. And now I'm going to place this right side down, raw edges even, and sew a seam there. A lot of stitching and flipping on one side. This would be really cute to make 4 of these and then put them all together and have that center, the stripes all be in the center. All right, and then we're going to flip it. And if we were all together, I'd say, what do we do next? We finger press, smooth it out, and sew the tack down stitches.
If you want to do a few more, I can.
Okay, so we're just going to keep going. We're going to do pink and then the blue again until we've stitched and flipped and covered this entire section with fabric. So it's right side down. And your raw edge is even, and we're going to leave about a 1/2 inch there on the outside of the block. And then we're going to flip it. We're going to finger press it, flip it, finger press it, and sew the tack down stitches. And then we're going to trim again. You could do this in your sleep once you get to this point. Okay. And we're going to do the blue next. So we're going to do right side down, raw edges even, leave about a 1/2 inch on the outside of the block and sew the seam. And flip it right side up and finger press it. And it's going to sew a tack down stitch. I'm going to trim 1/4 inch inside the block. And this is going to be the last seam here for the stripes. So again, right side down, raw edges even. It's a little short seam.
Can you talk about, are you using a neutral thread or a water soluble thread?
Well, these are the seams, so you definitely don't want to use a water soluble thread. You are going to want to use just a neutral color thread that blends in with your fabric. I happen to have pink in there. It's obviously going to depend on what colors fabrics you have. Sometimes you can use a shade of gray that's going to blend in really good with what you're working on. So really just use a neutral thread, no water soluble on seams. The news is that the instructions tell you exactly what thread to be using. So I'm going to flip this right side up and finger press it and smooth it out. And it's going to sew the tack down stitch. All right, we got our stripes filled in, which is exciting. And I'm going to trim this side a 1/4 inch. But the rest of it, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave that there. It will be trimmed later once your block comes out of the hoop. And our next step is, I'm just going to assume, our next step is we're going to add this piece of fabric and double check the instructions. Yep, this is our fabric 3.
Oh, I've seen that before.
Isn't that adorable? So we're going to lay that right side down with the raw edges, even all those edges that we cut here. You're going to make sure that you have equal amounts of fabric here at the top and also at the bottom. And then it's going to stitch a seam. And this is a neutral thread step as well because it is a seam.
Are you doing a 5-inch or an 8-inch?
This is, what size is this? I think it's a 5-inch block. Okay, now what you're going to do is we're going to flip this and we're going to finger press it. And you, when you make this, are going to change to water soluble thread. To save time, I'm just going to continue with my pink thread. But we'll talk in a minute here about why you need to use water soluble thread here. So what it's going to do, you'll see it's going to sew a tack down around the entire block. And you just need to keep your fabric smooth and your fingers out of the way. And it's just going to tack down all the loose edges here on your block. When you get to this spot, the fabric kind of goes like this. So you just need to make sure that these little areas here are laying nice and flat. And sometimes maybe keep your fingers out of the way, use a stiletto or something. But there you go. And again, that is a water soluble step within the same step, it's now going to sew a placement stitch to show where our bunny is.
I see a question about what hoop size Annie is using, and I will say, generally as a tip, we recommend that you use your smallest hoop that fits the design. I think Annie said she's doing a 5-inch block, so she used her smaller hoop.
Okay, so now hopefully you can see this good on the camera or watched it stitch. You can see kind of a silhouette of the little bunny shape there. Our next step is going to be quilting, and the quilting, you probably can't pick it up on here, but it's little bunnies, little quilted bunnies all over the background of it. I'm going to leave my pink thread in there, and that way hopefully we'll be able to see the bunnies a little bit better. But we're going to do some bunny quilting, and then we're going to do our applique for the bunny. So Aubrey, I don't know if you have anything to share there. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Aubrey.
All right. Well, she is stitching that. I don't know why this thing keeps bopping around on me today when I'm clicking the thing. It's not me, I swear. So, okay, I just wanted to give you a few reminders in case maybe you're joining us for the first time and you didn't catch what we said this morning. But this whole live is part of an event that's going on all day today from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern. And it's taking place in our Facebook group in the events tab. So I wanted to quickly show you where that is. I saw a couple people saying they're not finding it on Facebook. And my guess is you just need to go one more step. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. And I'm going to take you over to show you our Facebook group. Yes, we do have people watching on YouTube right now, and you can absolutely watch the live via YouTube. But if you want to take part in the fun event, you're going to come to Hoop Sisters Quilt in the Hoop VIP's Facebook group. And then across the top, there's a bunch of different options. But what you're going to select is events. Okay. Once you click events, you can click on the name of this event, which is Hop into Spring with Hoop Sisters right here. And then most people go, well, I'm here, but I don't see anything, right? I don't know. Is this it? The secret is one more click into the discussion tab. And once you hit discussion, you're going to see all the posts. You're going to see Nina's explanation here of how the event works. You're going to be able to see the schedule of events in here and a whole bunch of other things. And here's our live. Our live is located in there. I'm trying to find this scavenger hunt real quick. Is anyone participating in the scavenger? Here it is. Here it is. Okay. So we've got a super fun scavenger hunt going on in here, and you can see all of the fun posts, people going and collecting their things and posting in there. So just lots of cute, fun things taking place within the discussion tab of the Facebook group. Facebook can be tricky at times, you're right. But it's super cool if you can get into that event, because then everything that we're talking about for this event is located in there. Kimberly said she had fun with the scavenger hunt as well. Okay, and then the other thing is the bunny that Annie is stitching out right now is actually part of the event. If you are ordering anything on the website today, you're going to get the bunny block. It'll pop in your cart automatically, so you can stitch that out over the weekend, today even, and post that within the event and in the group too. The other thing I'll mention is we do have a special category with quilts. We actually did a mini trunk show this morning, and the quilts are listed in there. And everything except for the My Journal sentiments in that tab is 10% off. I believe there might be a couple exceptions, but the quilts we showed are definitely part of it. We showed them this morning, so 10% off within that category. And then, but anything you order on the website, today, you will get the bunny block included. So how fun is that? Annie's got to switch her bobbins out here real quick.
I should have checked my bobbin thread before we started. I'm running out of bobbin thread.
Okay. So, all right. Well, she's fixing that up. Well, I also want to let you know, if you have any confusions about where to find anything or how to get the bunny block or any of that stuff, just know too, you can always contact Nina after the live is over, and she will be able to help you in person too. All right. I'm back over to you.
Okay.
You're muted.
Okay, we're still doing some bunny quilting. Adorable. Okay, I'm going to change out my thread to white thread because that's what matches my white bunny fabric. So if you have a gray or brown or tan bunny, you want to match your thread to your bunny fabric. And here's my white. And I had to change my bobbin thread because I ran out of bobbin thread. And what I was using was embroidery bobbin thread in the bobbin because, what are we doing here? We're not going to be seeing the back of it. The back of it will be, it's actually a lined block. So I just used embroidery bobbin thread in the bobbin. Okay, so for this step, we're going to place, this is my cute little bunny fabric with the little speckles on it. And I'm just going to place that right over where the bunny is. And you can see the placement stitches and where the quilting went around it. And I have white thread in there because it matches my fabric. And it's just going to stitch it. And it's going to probably, if I know how we do applique, it's going to go around there twice. And it goes around there twice so that as we're cutting close to that, as you do for a trim and place applique. And if you happen to get too close and snip one stitch, you'll have another row of it. Hopefully everything will come out just great. I can already see that this bunny is puffing up a lot more than the other bunnies. So that's the difference wool makes. And again, like I said before, it kind of also depends on where you're going to put it and how you're going to use it. You may not want it puffing up with the wool if you're going to be setting a drink or something on it. So now I'm going to trim real close to that stitching that it just did. And I'm using a Hoop Scissors Mini. And I like the Mini for this spot right here by the ear, where it's a little tight little area, because it really gets in there with the sharp points to it. And that's why I like this particular scissors. Okay, and I'm just going to continue cutting close to the stitching all around the bunny. Okay, after I'm finished with this, I'm going to continue with my white thread so you won't have to change your thread for the next step. And it's going to sew the satin stitches right around these raw edges. Okay. The other thing that it did is it did a little detail stitching. And that's why it's important to match your thread to your fabric when you do the step that we just did, because it does add a little detail stitching around where the bunny's neck is and around his legs. And if you use water soluble, your applique would still stay in place for that step, but you wouldn't have that detail. It could possibly wash out. So on our next step is the satin stitches. So I'm just going to go let it do its thing. Start a couple of minutes in. Okay. Okay, so while we watch that stitch out, I'm going to just go over some of the comments we have here. So Debbie says, so fun working on my masterclass blocks during the event. Made my order. Thank you, Debbie. I hope you're enjoying your masterclass too. It's a really pretty design. Okay. All right, and Kathy wants to know where we got our water-soluble thread. We have water-soluble thread that is on our website. We use a Superior Vanish Light is what we like to use for our water-soluble thread, and it is for sale on our website. I'm also quite certain that your local quilting store or sewing store will also have Vanish Light thread. We have had some people where maybe their machine doesn't like Vanish Light, the light version. There is also, if you get a lot of breakage, it's also, there's a regular Vanish. And that one is just a little heavier thread. So just something to keep in mind. And the other thing, storing water-soluble thread, keep it in the bag that it came in and keep it out of the sun in a cool, dark place, and you won't have any problem at all. And Debbie, she wants to know if we use water-soluble thread in the bobbin too. And if not, why not? We do not use it in the bobbin. In order for those stitches to dissolve, you only need to have the water-soluble part dissolve. And yeah, there might be some bobbin thread that is maybe left underneath here, but that's okay. That is not a problem if that little thread is left in there. But the Vanish Light, the Vanish or the Vanish Light only needs to be in the needle. And Beth says, I have always called my daughter my little bunny, so I want to make one for her. That's really cute, Beth. I like that. And does the fabric beneath the white fabric show through? You know, I will tell you that this one does have a little bit of show through. This one does. This one, not quite so much. So when you're choosing your white fabric, if you decide to use white, take that into consideration. Is it a heavy enough white, or are my background fabrics just maybe a little too dark? Maybe you want to choose something else for that. Okay. And Donna says, are you using a 5x7 hoop? Yes, I am, Donna. And we recommend you use the smallest hoop possible. Okay, and Evelyn, would it be possible to add wool and white fabric to make Bunny 3D? I think it would, Evelyn. I think that the step where it did the tack down for the fabric, I think that you could have a thin layer of wool in there as well and do that and really make that bunny pop up. And I think if you skip the wool for step 2 and added it under the white fabric, and then when you went to trim it, you would have to trim that wool as well. But Evelyn, I think you should try it. I think you should try it and post it on our VIP group so that we can see. All right.
Gotten several questions. There's the answer.
Oh, okay. Yes. If you place your order today, you will automatically in your cart receive this bunny block, and then you can just down.
They order any.
Okay.
Some people are looking for the bunny block to buy the bunny block.
Okay.
But really, if you just order anything on the website today, it'll pop in your cart.
Yep. Then you could start stitching this afternoon already. Yes, we did. Oh, that's the answer to Martha's question, is that if you order anything, right, Aubrey, anything at all on the website today, that bunny block will automatically appear in your cart and then you can download it. Joni says she's busy downloading my designs purchased today and adding to my instructions notebook. I bet you are so organized, Joni. That's awesome. And then Nanette says, I back my light colors with SF 101, so there's no show through. There you go. So many tips and tricks from everybody. I love it. So there's my cute little bunny. I think our satin stitches are all finished. So if you have any questions, you can still continue to type them in there. We'll be happy to answer those. So now I'm going to hit the start button again. I still have my white fabric in there. You should put fabric in there that matches your tail fabric, which I think for most of us will probably be white. And it's sewing a placement stitch for the tail. And then I'm going to put my tail fabric in. You can use white fabric. I think on this one, this feels like a little tiny piece of minky that Sarah used when she did this one. I actually have a little extra piece. They always have battleizer scraps laying around, right? So why not put them to work? And I'm going to lay that over the bunny placement stitch. And I'm going to sew a tack down stitch. I'm not going to, the machine is. I think that'll make it look a little fuzzy. And now I'm going to trim that close to the stitching with my hoop scissors. I thought about trying this with wool, but it kind of scared me a little bit. Sarah, would you ever try this with wool doing the bunny tail? It's just a little lofty. Yeah, Sarah agrees with me. She said probably not. But the battleizer, I think, is going to work out really well for this. And it's even just a slightly different shade of white than my fabric, so it'll show up really nice too. All right. And now it's going to, that looks cute. I like the battleizer on there on the tail. Now it's going to sew the satin stitches over the edges of the battleizer. Are there any more questions, Aubrey? Okay. I need to share my screen again.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen here again, just so we can make sure everyone knows where to go. So let's pretend that we find, also, I should mention that you did get an email, if you're on our email list, with a link directly to the event. So that's a really easy way to get to it. But if you're just kind of on Facebook and want to figure out where to go, if you go to our Hoop Sisters Quilt in the Hoop VIPs group, these tabs along the top, there's so much in this group besides just what you see when you first come. So if you go to the events tab, hopefully you can see my mouse wiggling around. If you go to the events tab, the event right here, Hop into Spring with Hoop Sisters. If you click this, then of course you got to make sure you're going into the discussions tab. The about tab is just going to tell you about when the event is, things like that. But the discussion tab has a whole bunch of good stuff in it. It has a post from Nina that explains everything. It also has our schedule and so on and so forth. So this is where the live is. So a bunch of good stuff. I wanted to make sure to show you again where to find the event, because I've seen a couple questions about that. I think Annie's ready to take back over at her machine.
I am. Look how cute my bunny is. Okay, the very last.
Hold on, I gotta change.
Sorry, I should have done that. Okay, we're on the last step, and our last step is you're going to take a piece of 6" by 6" piece of fabric, and you're just going to lay it right side down and just kind of center it. So you have like a 1/2 inch on all sides, top and bottom, peek under there and check. And then I'm going to continue with my white thread. You can use a neutral color, or if your fabric tends to need a different color than what you did on your bunny, then changed it to that color. It's going to go well with your thread, with your fabric. And now it's a lined block, so we are going to stitch all the way around the block. It does leave an opening at the top so that we can turn it. And then all we have to do after that is top stitch our little block. See how it left a little opening there? Okay. So we do not have a camera for our to use.
Get a camera.
Can you get a camera for the trimmer by George? Okay. I think that would be wonderful.
Yep, I got a camera.
All right. Good, because we got to finish our little block.
There you go.
She have a rotary cutter.
We cleaned. Now we don't know where it is.
Cleaned. Okay, well, bear with us for a second. There. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our cute little bunny block. You can see there's the back side. And what we need to do is we need to remove all that battleizer right up to the basting stitch. So we have a little tool called the Trimmer by George. And one of the reasons is because a couple ways you could accomplish removing all that battleizer up to the basting stitch would be to use your quilting ruler and your rotary cutter and just cutting alongside there. The problem is you're probably going to slice into your fabric at some point. And the same thing if you were to try and use a scissors and cut it nice and close. With our Trimmer by George, it has this nice crimped metal edge on here on the end of the ruler. So you're just going to take that metal edge and slide it between the fabric and the battleizer, and then you're going to lay it down. And then you can just do a gentle tug. And as long as you don't see any fabric peeking out here, then you can use this metal edge like you would a ruler, and you'd use a 60mm rotary cutter, and then you can cut that battleizer away. So now all the bulk is removed, so you don't have to worry about it not turning and laying nice. It's all pretty much cut almost up to the basting stitches. And I'm going to do that on all 4 sides on here. So you get to see me doing it again. I'm going to shimmy the metal edge in there and lay it down. Give it a nice tug, but gentle tug. Make sure nothing's peeking out. And I'm going to explain also why you have to use a 60mm rotary cutter. The 45 is not going to have that much distance as the 60. And the reason you need a little more distance is because that metal edge does raise your ruler up a little bit. So you need to have that extra room on your rotary cutter. And that helps you be able to put the rotary cutter right up flush with the metal edge. If it was too short, you would tend to want to cut at an angle, which means your blades would probably slip under there and it would end up cutting your fabric anyway. So I have one more side to do. Slide the metal edge between there. Gentle tug, nothing is showing. And then I can cut my battleizer away. So you can see how it is cut. Turn the bunny right side up. But you can see how we have removed the bulk from the seam. Our next step is we are going to trim the fabric so that it is 1/4 inch from the basting stitch that is right there. And so we'll use the ruler side of the Trimmer by George to cut the fabric 1/4 inch. And this is the side that has the opening, but they're stitching at both sides. So I can lay the 1/4 inch mark on the ruler on both those sides and trim that 1/4 inch away. A couple more sides and we'll be all set and ready to turn. And again, I'm laying the 1/4 inch mark on the ruler on top of the basting stitch. And now it's all trimmed. And one of the things, let me grab my little hoop scissors mini. One of the things I like to do before I turn it is I like to cut my corners, just clip those corners. And that will help it form a nice, make sure you don't cut the stitching, but get close to it so that it turns and lays nice. So I'm going to do that right now. Getting little triangles of fabric everywhere. Okay, there you go. So now we can turn it. I'm going to reach in here, and this is always a challenge, turning things. I see his little tail coming out. I'm going to flip, make sure my corners come out nice. They're so cute. Okay,
really
I'm
cute.
going to, I have a scissors that has a blunt end to it. And that's what I like to poke out my corners, because I don't want to have something too sharp that would end up poking right through it. But since I don't have it here, I'm going to try and do it carefully with my hoop scissors mini to get the corners to pop out nice. I think he's super cute. A couple more corners to pop out.
It's so cute.
It is cute. And this fabric is adorable. Okay, so then what's left to do now is you're going to press these ends popping up, and you're going to take the backing fabric and press that under 1/4 of an inch. You're going to press it nicely, and then you're going to top stitch all the way around it, just like this one was done. You can see the top stitching around there. So can you see the wool difference? Maybe if I put it at a different angle. So if you're going to put a drink or something on it, I'd skip the wool. However, I do like the suggestion made about trying the wool under just the bunny. Yeah. I think that would be a lot of fun. So here we have the bunny with the wool right here and the one without. So they're both just equally as cute as can be.
They really are.
They'd be awesome in an Easter basket.
Yes.
Very cute.
And someone asked, can you see the fabric through the white? Yeah. I would say as long as you're using a good white, you shouldn't have that. I can see it more on this one.
I can too.
Whereas this with the polka dots a little bit on the fabric, you really can't. Yep. Or if you use a lighter fabric choice here,
right.
And maybe a brown bunny.
Or, yeah.
So I feel like if you just put your white fabric over the top of the fabrics you want to use, you'll know what it looks like.
Right. And I just want to, this tail is a little piece of Minky. He's a little harder to see just because the colors blend in more. This one here was the Battleizer. Mm-hmm. And I think they both look just pretty much about the same. The Minky feels a little softer, but just a chunk of Battleizer. You probably have that in your garbage can.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I think we did it. That was our second live of this event today. So from here till 3 o'clock, there's going to be additional party posts within the event in our Facebook VIP Facebook group. And I know that there's been links dropped all over the place. So there's definitely, even if you're on our email list, you definitely have an email that will link you directly into the event. If you're looking for a specific post within the event, you'll just have to scroll. You'll find it in there. And if you have any questions that we did not get answered, or you're still trying to find something, feel free to get a hold of Nina. Her phone number and email is there on the screen, and she will definitely get back to you, help you. So I think we did it.
We did. And I want to go check out the scavenger hunt. That looks like they're having a lot of fun. Yeah, you need to. Okay, there was one other comment in here.
Okay. Yeah, it was this one. I was laughing. Susan said, I can already see these bunny blocks multiplying like the real thing. I thought that was cute. Yep. And Peg asked what cutting mat we're using. We have different ones in the office.
We do.
So
This cutting mat, and it's because of the cabinet that it's on, is a kangaroo.
there you go.
Cutting mat.
We have other ones in the office
Yeah.
too. I don't know that
We
we
just
have
got a
preference.
new one in that came yesterday.
Oh, is that what that was there for?
Yeah.
Okay, I get it now. Sharon, are the baseballs the entire block beneath the baseball glove wrap? Yes. Those baseballs on that pillow,
Oh, okay.
they go through the whole,
Through the whole, I'm not sure.
like
what
if
the
you
question
took
is.
the sleeve off of the baseball
Mhm.
pillow, the baseballs are quilted throughout the whole pillow, correct?
Yes,
Yes, I
absolutely
thought
they
so.
are. Yep, absolutely. Yep, the quilting on all those pillows is so cute because it's just themed along with what
Mhm.
the wrap is.
Yep. Yep.
Mm.
Okay. All right. So here's what you need to do. Go into
Yep.
the event, comment, because one lucky winner who's participating and commenting in that event is going to win 5 yards of Battleizer before the day is up. So, oh, the one behind me. This is actually this was the bonus from Masterclass. It's now in that category on the website for like $35. If you wanted it independently, you didn't get it during the Masterclass promotion. This is in our Hop into Spring event as well. Phone's ringing. Okay. So get a hold of Nina if you need anything. We will help you in there and we'll finish out the remainder of the day within the event. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.